our intent will be to probably not put you to sleep, but actually to wake you up to the possibilities that should emerge shortly. I have the privilege and honor of talking to this august panel here in front of me. And I think what I'll do is I'll start by setting some context. Because, of course, you know the title of the conversation here, the jobs next door, how can it unlock India's local economy? But just to set some context, see, when you think about restaurants, you can see them all around yourself as a blue dot on a map and can order food. When you look at cabs, you can again see them as blue dots on a map and you can order a cab and commute. But can you see jobs around you as a blue dot on a map and apply? Can you? That's the question we actually sought to answer. And in that context, something really interesting panned out in Dharwad, which is a district in Karnataka, where an entire local ecosystem came together to ensure that local talent and local jobs could be on a digital map as blue dots. In fact, the picture that you see on the screens, it's a real picture. It's of jobs and talent appearing as blue dots on a digital map in Dharwad. Now, of course, something like that, one would wonder why, when there are so many platforms around, and if, why shouldn't that have happened? But I think that, so again, a little bit of a why around it. When you especially look at the local youth in the country, not the ones who may be studying at premier colleges, but those who may be in tier 2, 3 colleges, or maybe, in skilling institutes, a lot of them may not even pursue college and may drop out after that. They don't really have digital means or a way to find jobs in their vicinity. In fact, companies don't even come to the campuses where they may be studying today. So, they're not able to really find jobs, and they struggle with that. In fact, more than 80% of these youth forget about a digital profile. They don't even have a CV. So I'm not just talking that they are not on LinkedIn, they don't even have a CV, for that matter. Likewise, on the other side, when you see, talk about jobs, in fact, MSMEs, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, they are responsible for producing 70% jobs in the country. They are the job creation engine of the country. And where do you find the jobs that come through MSMEs? You'll find them as posters on trees, on poles. In fact, all around you, you will find that, right? Because they don't, again, have digital avenues to post a job via which it becomes discoverable for anyone, for that matter. And that is the script that Dharwad worked on changing. And not just, a few folks or one platform, etc., entire local ecosystem of Dharwad. Be it the DC office of Dharwad, the skilling centers, the ITIs, the colleges, the MSMEs, the MSME associations, a few innovator companies which would bring in technology and how it can be leveraged. All of them came together to solve this discovery problem. How can I find jobs next door? How can I find local talent next door? Because quite often for them, this digital darkness, it's almost like a diwar. I may have enough opportunities in the next lane, but I'm not able to see them, and vice versa. So this diwar was broken in Dharwad, and Madam Secretary, of course, she's yet to join. She was almost 3 decades back the DC of Dharwad. So she was quite involved in terms of seeing how this happened in Dharwad and how a digital public infrastructure approach enabled a local ecosystem to leverage these things as digital rails and solve for this discovery problem. Now, without further ado, we'll jump into the conversation with the panelists. But that was the quick background and the context. And while Madam Secretary is not here, what she's working towards in partnership with EkStep Foundation is to create an employment and welfare stack with different components so that digital public infrastructure can enable hundreds of districts in India to solve this digital darkness ki diwar. So, Madan, I'll probably start with you as the first question on the panel. You've been a great believer of the district's economy. In fact, I've been quite inspired by so many ideas that you keep talking about in this context. So, and many districts in India, they are themselves multi-billion-dollar economies of their own, right? So, and along with Heddle Foundation, you and team have been quite deeply involved in rallying this entire local ecosystem in Dharwad so that they could create these blue dots and that could solve for the local employment problem. But I think you've been also talking about this doesn't just solve for local employment, but it also gives rise to a blue dot economy. So can you please share your thoughts and perspectives around how this gives rise to the local economy beyond just employment as an aspect?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gaurav, and good afternoon, everybody. Namaskara. Wonderful to be here on this very topical conversation about how do we enable the blue dot economy. A small quiz question, right, to get the conversation going. Dharwad, as you're aware, is a district in North Karnataka, roughly about 28 lakh population. Can anybody guess the district GDP of Dharwad? Any wild guesses? Any number that comes to your mind? Maybe in crores or dollars or whatever. Any guesses? Wild guess. Whatever number comes to your mind. Yeah?
2,000 USD per capita.
Per capita, and what does that, yeah, so you got the math, but let's say GDP number. Yep.
25 billion.
25 billion, okay. Any other number? We'll get there soon. Okay, so interestingly, Dharwad's, as per the Karnataka Economic Census Report 23-24, was about 75,000 crores. The district GDP is almost $9 billion, right? 8 billion, 9 billion. In 2016, Dharwad's district GDP was 40,000 crores. So it's almost doubled from 2016 to 2023-24. Assuming that it's going to double again, if not faster, in the next 7 years, 2030, Dharwad itself will be a 150,000 crore economy, right? Which is, what, $15 billion. By the way, since our Honorable Prime Minister is in Bhutan today, that is the size of 8 Bhutans, right? So imagine, and this is just not Dharwad is no anomaly. It is every other district, give or take, is a matter of the same thing. The math that you did, $2,000 into 25 lakh people is a large money. So where I'm coming from is the biggest challenge has been how do you get local youth to benefit from the growth of the local economy, right? We did a survey, and I'll end with that, and maybe that's seed that thought. We at Heddle Foundation, we were delighted to partner with EkStep in this whole rollout. A lot of learnings for us. We've been espousing this, but didn't find a framework to kind of hoist it on. And Blue Dot gave us the fantastic framework. We did a survey called UGraph, which is what we're talking about, Youth Growth, Resilience, Aspirations, and Future Readiness Index. This is something that we're rolling out. And one of the repeated insights that we're getting from youth in districts is, don't force us to migrate. Give me well-paying jobs. I'm not talking for handouts. I'm not talking of doles. Give me quality jobs locally. I will stay here. I prefer to stay here. But if there is nothing, then I'll migrate. So I think this discoverability, and not just of jobs, but if you're talking about 75,000 crores as an example being added in Dharwad, imagine the amount of entrepreneurial opportunity that it throws up. When we pat ourselves on the back for having created 105, 10, whatever the number of unicorns, I can assure you that in 75,000 crores of economic growth, Dharwad itself can create 10 unicorns. And so does every district of the country. And imagine the jobs that can create. The key is signals, right? How do people know that growth is happening? Where is it happening? How can I participate in the growth? So at an Uber level, I see the experiment that we're doing here as emanating real-time signals of growth to people, both on the demand side and supply side. And if we can match it in real time, then you are creating far more efficiency in the whole matching process than anything else. So that's the larger framing that I just wanted to share.
No, absolutely wonderful, Madan. In fact, the fact that, still, despite such a large GDP, we might be just scratching the surface.
Exactly.
And the potential that our economies possess, how can that be unlocked when you break through the discovery problem? That's fascinating. Pankaj, I wanted to come to you next. Because while Dharwad was a lab, expanding it really requires the entrepreneurial ecosystem to come together. And both as an investor as well as a mentor to many, many entrepreneurs. And you have a special mission of enabling 10 million jobs across Bharat by 2030. And I know that you're putting also together a fund called Bharat 10M as a consortium of many investors who are looking at investing in many startups who may solve for that. So how do you, from your lens and perspective, really look at this kind of an opportunity, this blue dots, really enabling discovery and for this entire ecosystem to leverage something like an employment and welfare stack and innovate on top of it?
No, thank you. Thank you, Team EkStep, for getting us together and for the wonderful co-panelists. Madan, we've been friends for a long time. On the outside, I was discussing with Prabhakar, ex-HR leader, now part here. We were discussing that on the white-collar side, we are struggling with jobs. AI has come in, productivity has taken away. Then there are these 20 crore people which are not visible. There are many entrepreneurs in the forum. I can see Artham founder sitting here. I can see my colleague from Caret Capital sitting here, my son sitting here. Everyone, when I see there are so many people sitting here, I can feel there are founders in the audience. Yeah. Now, they can answer this question, but there are 3 benchmarks for me. One, next year, this session should happen in the main auditorium on the inaugural of Charcha. Right? So that's one sign that, we have really arrived. Job is getting a main stage. I remember the HR days where HR conferences were small. Today, you see every HR conference is big, sold out. So that's one. Second yardstick is when every VC will say, I have a job thesis. Correct. In India, there is no VC who has a job thesis. Absolutely. So what you call Bharat 10M, I used to call it work 10M, what you meant. In Caret Capital, we have allocated only 2 mission statements. 2 mission numbers. One is 10 million jobs, and second, 10 metric million ton carbon reduction because we stay in Delhi. Right? So we said we'll only invest in electric mobility and jobs. That's my second part. Third is I'm not getting in anything else. This discoverability is only possible not because of the protocol that EkStep team can build, not because of the blessings of Labour Ministry or Prime Minister Office. It will happen when there are 20 entrepreneurs sitting here and 100 VCs saying that I'm backing it up. So I want to see, forget unicorns, I'm okay even if 100 crore companies of recruiting existing in every part of the country saying I create these blue dots that you're creating, I make them real. Uber made them real in that time in US. It is our time. Problem is when I talk to VCs, no one wants to invest. I want to assure you, Gaurav, through this platform, I have made enough money. I can give you names. Avigna, we invested at 85 crores, sold at 890 crores in 5 years. We made money. I request if VCs sitting here, please invest. People Strong, my company, I built it up, sold it to Goldman Sachs. It was not directly jobs. Tag, which is the company I built, I'm founder. It's 100 crore plus revenue, profitable, growing. I can continue. Artham, look at the model of Artham. I'm just delighted. Someone is converting unorganized workforce into organized. Yeah. 3 lakh contractors. He keeps telling me that, Pankaj, we have 3 lakh contractors and how they are treating those people are not even identified. Yeah. So discovery is possible once you give me identity beyond Aadhaar. Yeah. Corporate job, you don't give it basis Aadhaar. You want a BGV. So give me enough that I'm a part of your system and a white economy where I can get a loan. That's what Artham is doing. So I can continue and spend the whole next 27 minutes on this, but I will not. So these are my 3 yardsticks to make it believe, and I hope you all will join this mission like everyone is doing here and make it real. Thank you.
Lovely, Pankaj. In fact, you're not just inspiring entrepreneurs, you're inspiring aspirations in each one of us who are in the room and beyond. Yeah. So thank you for that. Now, of course, capital can move markets, it can create aspirations, but you need much more than that. You need trust, because trust can move ecosystems. Shriya, your organization, the Convergence Foundation, it's been working towards the mission of Viksit Bharat. So, Shriya, I'll just continue with the question. So, your organization, it's especially really working with a diverse set of ecosystem players, right? And of course, from ma'am, we'll shortly hear the Sarkar voice. Madan and Pankaj spoke about the Bazaar voice. But can you speak about the Samaj voice? I mean, how can Samaj be involved in this play? How can they bring in inclusion in this context?
Yeah, no, thank you, Gaurav, and thank you for putting together. And I agree that next year we need to be on the main stage. Like I said, so the Convergence Foundation is a philanthropic foundation, and I joined it a year ago specifically to look into this question of youth are looking for jobs today, and on the other hand, we see companies saying we can't find youth who are looking for jobs. And I think Blue Dot really is one of the smartest solutions we see to solving this problem. As I went deeper into this question over the last year, I think one of the things that kept coming up again and again is that we don't know what we are skilling for, right? So today we have an ITI ecosystem, we have a polytechnic skilling ecosystem, but in the absence of understanding of what demand is, what jobs are, what local jobs are, we are skilling for what we assume jobs to be, right? And therefore, the data availability or credible data availability is missing in the ecosystem, which doesn't allow people to respond. And I think that is really where we kind of started, talking to you, Gaurav, and saying, how do we actually enable this at scale? And while we can have, platforms, job platforms come on the one side to kind of, come under the Blue Dot, really the supply side ecosystem is what we need to get on. So can we activate the nonprofits? Can we activate the ITI ecosystem? All the people that are really working on making youth responsible for what, making credible choices. In the absence of data, the youth can't make credible choices, right? If somebody's uncle says, "Acha, udhar meko pata hai job hai, aap udhar chale jao," versus saying, you know what, in my ecosystem there are these 10 jobs available. I have a choice today, right? The employer is looking for talented people, and I can go look for it. So I think what the opportunity that I see lies here is actually just unlocking credible data and allowing people to make choices, and then the second is that. I think it enables everybody to have their own perspective, right? You're not forcing people onto a singular platform. I think the big difference and the reason I think this is a model that will, eventually scale and be adopted is that we're not forcing everybody onto a singular platform. Everybody is able to create what they want, whether it is created for the design of enabling female labor force participation or saying that, I'm really interested in working with people with disability and enabling them access. You can design it the way you want and therefore, but be part of a larger ecosystem because it's at the back end coordinated with the larger ecosystem. So I think that is really where, if we're able to bring everybody and get them to understand the value of a program like this, we're able to kind of break the deadlock of unilateral conversations and open it out wider.
No, thanks, Shriya. I especially love this aspect that from our uncles and aunties deciding what career options should we pursue, what jobs we get into, it should be our agency, to kind of decide that. No, thank you for that. Ma'am, coming to you, we just spoke about what happened in Dharwad. And of course, I was telling everyone that almost 3 decades back, you were the DC of Dharwad. So from one Dharwad being lit up, you are inspiring everyone to go after ensuring that the entire country can be lit up. And you're in the process of putting together the employment and welfare stack, which can really power an entire ecosystem. In fact, many local ecosystems to leverage the digital rails and solve for this, what we refer to as the diwar of digital darkness. Ma'am, so can you please speak about what is it that will take for this employment and welfare stack to really come together? How are you really looking at ecosystem, leveraging it? And if you can share some perspective about what's happening and what's coming through.
Thanks, Gaurav, for having me here. You were doubtful whether I'll come or not. So was I, but I wouldn't give up this for anything. I value this partnership and the event that you've organized. I really value the work that we are doing, the brilliant work that we are doing with EkStep. So coming to your specific question about Dharwad, I would just go back. I joined this ministry 5-6 months back, and I was looking at the various digital systems we have, especially which have a potential for employment generation. Because this ministry is labor and employment, so on the employment part of it, we have eShram, where we have the whole unorganized workers registered, about 31 odd crores are there. We have National Career Service Portal. Now, when you look at that in terms of sheer numbers, it has more than 50 lakh employers. It has 5.5 crore job seekers. And from the beginning, when it came into being in 2015, some 7 crore vacancies have been mobilized on this. We really, like I think most of the other aggregators like Naukri.com or the others, by the way, they're also on NCS. This is more like a platform where it's being used to advertise jobs. What is happening after that, we don't know. Who is benefiting from that, we are still not aware of that. So I had been discussing with my team as to how we actually make this more useful to the entire employment ecosystem. And that's when I had this conversation with Mr. Nandan, because I know him from my cadre days. So I said that you have led legendary kind of reforms in the country. So can you help us ideate, think through? And that's when EkStep came into being. And we started this conversation. I had the opportunity of seeing your work when I visited Bangalore. I haven't visited Dharwad. I hope to do that sometime. It will be a trip down memory lane for me. But I think it has demonstrated a very important use case. The answers that I was looking for, that how can we make NCS more useful to people? How can we free it up from just being a government-run portal to something that can enable the entire employment ecosystem? And I think what we saw there is how it is enabling local job searches, local job matching, and also the trust issue, which is the credential issue. So I would say that it is the 3 T's: technology, trust, and the tripartite nature, where the collaboration between the people who are seeking job, the job seekers, the job providers, the industry, and the local associations that are there, and the intermediaries in terms of it could be local startups, local youths, how these trio can come together to actually facilitate the system. So what we would next from our ministry like to do, this is one proof of concept. We would like to, and as we've discussed with EkStep, take this to another district and try it out first. So Ghaziabad is what has been selected. But I think beyond what was done in Dharwad, now we also want to bring the skill issue. So that was being discussed, because I keep hearing from the industry that where are the people? So I think you were also voicing that. Whereas there is this narrative that there is a demographic dividend which still needs to be kind of utilized fully by the country. So what we want to do in Ghaziabad is bring in the skilling initiative with the SID portal that is there and link with them. There has been a kind of an informal agreement with the skill ministry, and we would like to take that forward. We want to bring in the My Bharat volunteers from the Ministry of Youth Affairs and see how they can become enabler in the local ecosystem. So these two we would like to first try. And then I think as this proof of concept proceeds, we would like to come up with a complete strategy paper as to how NCS can become a rail on which the private sector and the startups can, it is like the UPI for the country, and they can build their own apps and whatever they require, use the various services that are there, also build the credential services which are currently not there, and see how we can transform that. So that is the direction we are moving in. And that is, I think, going to be an important part of the DPI and an important part of the labor and employment stack that we are talking about.
Thank you very much, ma'am. In fact, you've articulated a very powerful vision, which is, many different ministries joining hands, putting together this open to use common digital public infrastructure through NCS, through eShram, through SID, and really powering a ecosystems locally as well as nationally in terms of enabling them to, put jobs, put candidates, and, for diverse players to actually be able to, in a way, create the UPI for employment and welfare, if you will. So that's really great, ma'am. Thank you for sharing that vision. And I think with Ghaziabad as a pilot, the things may expand, and then naturally, with the strategy paper and all this, may go to many, many districts and towns in India. Manu, coming to you, you probably are the youngest amongst us on the panel. And you represent the voice of innovation, also being a very, very successful entrepreneur in terms of what you're doing with Karya and how it's helping women do work not just locally within the town, but locally, from their homes, right? And then, so can you speak a little bit about that? And second, when you look at something like this, the stack that ma'am just spoke about, how do you look at that changing the definition of, local work in itself?
Absolutely. One, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for coming, ma'am, and for everyone. I think we're in a very, very exciting time where our communities can of course do work that is available to them locally, but can also do global work from the comfort of their homes, right? Thanks to India's big digital push over the last 10 years, the latest ASA report tells us that over 80% of rural Indian households now have access to a smartphone, right? Which means that on their phone, they can do work that is globally valuable, right? I'm an AI computer scientist, that's what I do. And every single year, we're spending over $37 billion in building the data sets that power the AI revolution. Of that $37 billion, what's coming to India right now is $200 million, right? And this is basic skill arbitrage, where I believe 90 to 95% of that work should be happening in India because we have the talent for it, right? Of course, for us to truly build inclusive AI, we have to employ the communities we want to include. And we see this very funny dance at Karya, where every time we discover a new form of work, someone says it can't be done, right? And then we're able to prove that our communities can do it, right? The latest, so when we started, I remember going to a very senior technologist who said, look, if there were 100,000 people in rural communities who had the talent to do what you want them to do, they would have had jobs. And we know that that is not true, right? We know, all of us know that our communities have the talent, they just lack the opportunity. And I think what you're doing with the Blue Dot economy is one way to tackle that. These new jobs that AI is creating actively pay really, really well, which is why I'm excited about them, right? We do this thing where a lot of these data companies, a lot of these AI companies want to build large corpora of conversational speech, right? Companies are willing to pay up to 25 to 30 US dollars per hour for our communities to sit at their home, just talk to each other. Right? Like if we were recording this conversation, we would monetize it really well. But I think that to me is very, very exciting. The fact that that $37 billion is being spent and we have an opportunity to bring that to our communities. And we've been able to train over 130,000 people in every single state in India to do this work from their home. And the biggest barrier to India getting more of that 37 billion is narrative. We need to constantly be talking about the fact that the reason you should work with our communities is because they're the best at what they do, not because there's a cost arbitrage to play, right? So we actually pay our workers exactly what they would get paid, right? If they were not in rural India, but in urban communities, and we pay them really high, right? And I think that to me is really, really important. Are there other opportunities for us that we can do that arbitrage in? I'll give you a quick example. I had a call last Friday with one of the largest robotics companies in the world, and they were willing to pay up to $50 an hour people to record like ergonomic videos of what they were doing without any PII, of course. And I was like, that's an exciting work we can bring in. Given that we're now sitting on this digital layer and so much work can come to our communities, I am especially excited about what ma'am is talking about in terms of building a UPI for employment layer. Because if we can reach out to talent, India can truly be the talent hub for AI. AI is yet another technology, right? Eric Brynjolfsson from Stanford says that if we could automate all the work that ancient Greeks were doing, we would get to vaccines faster, which is to say new forms of work will come up, right? I have complete faith in human ingenuity to create new work. It's very hard for us to be restless and bored. And I think it is the youth of India who will be doing the new jobs. And for us, what's important is that they get paid for it and the work comes to them. The fear I have is if you don't do what, if EkStep doesn't do what it's doing, that work will not come to our people. And centering them in these new jobs and these new opportunities is both exciting and the need of the hour.
No, well said, Manu. In fact, it's never easy to start a new initiative and ensure that it becomes really successful. But what you are doing is fabulous. In fact, the example that you gave, that people are willing to pay up to $50 an hour, and I can do that work sitting out of my home.
We just recorded the first sample videos. It's the funniest thing. We've had recorded people making recipes, making food. So we had people put like a GoPro and record, make idli. Making idli is so hard. I did not know that. I have so much respect for how hard it is. But we had clients willing to pay for that. And again, you can keep the ownership of the data with the community. So it's not we can have data sovereignty in the mine and do royalties. There's so many interesting models that are possible. And this is just one example. There's so many that,
Absolutely.
Given that everyone has 80% of our communities have smartphones now, that's where we start.
Excellent. So I think that's a wonderful segue in terms of also the thing that you pointed out, that when global work can come to local talent, how can local talent get more of global work? And ma'am, coming back to you, especially India being the skill capital of the world, in fact, that's the vision that the Honorable Prime Minister has. And when you especially look at the employment and welfare stack, how can this open many doors for the local talent to find local opportunities, national opportunities, and even global opportunities so that there is an employment boom in the country?
So I think you put it very rightly, local to global. So some of it is already done and much more needs to be done. The NCS is actually connected with the e-migrate portal of the Ministry of External Affairs. And the way this moves in the country, in the employment space, is that we have registered agents which are approved by the MEA, which actually facilitate the entire local to global employment. So they in turn are linked with the companies abroad, with the employers abroad who need people from India. So these registered agents are already there as part of NCS. What we want to further add, apart from what we discussed earlier, that local ecosystem will certainly help this matching. But we also want to do something called education to employment career lounges, which would be located in the universities. These we want to run with industry partnership. And the university would provide space. Industry would actually bring in counselors, people who will do psychometric testing. I mean, there was a discussion about people not liking the jobs that they are doing. So they would do the aptitude testing and guide them to the requisite jobs. Industry would also bring in its perspective on what exactly it needs in terms of skilling, and that upskilling or bridge skill gap can happen in the university campus itself. This entire initiative through NCS also would be linked abroad through the MEA and e-migrate portal. We, in fact, have requests which are there with us from many countries. NCS was demonstrated in Geneva in the International Labour Conference. Recently, our minister was at Doha. Even there in the Social Protection Conference, this was demonstrated. So there are a lot of countries who want to collaborate with India on initiatives similar to NCS. And therefore, that entire ecosystem, and we also have these mobility agreements with several countries. So if we are able to develop first our local integration well with the skill part, with the involvement of the industry, with having our, as I said, the UPI moment sorted, all that will, plus the E2E, will feed into this global mobility also, especially on the skill part, because this will identify through the E2E and through the NCS and through the industry involvement, what is it that we need to do to be able to, actually get those jobs abroad and get the jobs which, because the current experience is many times when people go abroad, they go for a certain job, but they don't get that job, they get a lower job. Then they have to work for nurses, etc. They have to work for 1 or 2 years. Then only they get recognized as a proper nurse. So how can we do all that here within the country so that when our people go, they go for the jobs that they aspire for, they go for the dignity and wages that they deserve.
That's wonderful, ma'am. In fact, that's a ecosystem approach, leveraging the rails, which really, makes the talent find equal opportunities, not just locally, but internationally. Really powerful. Now from a stack that the ecosystem can use to the people that inspire the ecosystem, Pankaj and Madan, both of you, of course, you've been wonderful mentors to the ecosystem, you've inspired the ecosystem, but for a moment, let's assume that you've become younger. Not to say that you're not young yet, you are, but maybe 20 years back, if you were to start again as entrepreneurs, and especially when you heard about the stack that ma'am just spoke about, how would you really relook at the opportunities in front of you, and how would you go about that in terms of really creating something which not just creates impact, but also has good sound economics built around it?
I think, and ma'am can say my colleagues in tagged report released the report yesterday, and you were there at the India Decoding Jobs report, which was launched, and India Skill report. These were all two my reports. This is my company. The skill number has moved to 59%, which started from 34. And I'm giving the answer to your question that if I'm a younger self, what I will tell. I will say India's skill is going up. Don't question me that skills are going down, AI is not good. I'm just talking of the mass core sectors, skills are improving. Let's assume that. That's how we are able to export talent outside. I was called 2 years ago in Germany Skill Council, where Prime Minister gave, the Honorable PM gave the opening speech, and it was very nice. Germany was almost treating us like kings so that we can send Indian talent to Germany. And I'm sure if I'm not wrong, your ministry would have signed 12 or 14 MOUs with some countries, right? So 22. So imagine the complaints we have from government without knowing what government is doing. All the complaints I would have done from my own self, saying if only thing that can stop, like at that time I was told HR as a category cannot be built. 3 companies, 2 big exits, 1 doing well. So I will again just say 3 things to them. Number 1, please go ahead, come what may, build this category called jobs. Secondly, look at tier 2 and tier 3. Don't look at tier 1. Enough. 50%, 48% of total jobs created in India are today at tier 2 or tier 3. So pick up that point if you can. And thirdly, figure out to convince all the venture capitalists that I said in my opening also, that allocate some capital. In our current fund, my colleague Aman is there, we have allocated 75 crore rupees out of the 400 crores only to invest in jobs. One we've already done. Imagine if there are small VCs like me and 10 of them or 20 of them committed. Next time when I get to meet Prime Minister in the Karmyogi Bharat meeting, which I'm on board of, I'm going to just tell him, see, we have committed 1,000 crores. At least I have something to report. We can sit in our drawing room and complain that government is not creating jobs. How will they create jobs? Right. It's our jobs. So that's my 3 pieces of advice that I will have, is what I would say.
Madan.
Wonderful. No, I think I was just saying that, well, things have changed. Some things remain the same. So when I started off Meritrack as an idea 25 years ago, a lot of hair back then, the double whammy of starting a business and getting married at the same time. But the hypothesis was simple. Read a NASSCOM McKinsey report which said the Indian IT industry will grow from 100,000 to 1 million people. Heard a HR friend who said, you know what, my selection rate is 1:10, ex in fee. And I just did the math to say, listen, there's an opportunity to assess 10 million people, right? And there was no assessment company in India. And that's how Meritrack was formed as India's first testing and assessments firm. And we just completed 25 years last month, after we, of course, sold to Manipal many years ago. But Meritrack has ended testing about 60 million people so far, right? If you apply the same logic, 150 million to 200 million youngsters entering the workforce, heart full of hopes, education levels have gone up, aspirations are going up, digital skills are opening up, the new education policy is throwing up a lot more possibilities, career opportunities. That to me is a massive opportunity because you're talking of 150 million youngsters making career choices, not for 30 years, not for 3 years, but maybe every 3 months. Right? Yeah. Because the world is going to be gig, the world is going to be full of opportunities. There is entrepreneurial opportunities, there is gig opportunities, there are jobs. Who knows what will come, right? So if we as entrepreneurs, if I were to start all over again, I will probably do the same thing, saying, how do I unleash the potential of every young person to its fullest potential? That is what we do at Herald High. but how do we leverage technology to build local opportunities for youth, and then how do you layer the global part on that, right? So the problem statement is still the same, except that the tools and the ecosystem support that we have now is far more advanced than what was 25 years ago. Yeah. And I think that is a tremendous opportunity for us to build on. Just coming back to your last point on, I hope that for entrepreneurs out there, you were talking about Diwar, and I wanted to say that, if a rich cousin in Harvard were to say, mere paas naukri hai, gaadi hai, bangla hai, to a poor cousin in Dharwad, tere paas kya hai? And I want him to say, mere paas blue dot hai.
Wow. Wow. Kya baat. I was hoping for you to say that, Madan. So thank you. मैं इसलिए दीवार को लेके आया था, आपने तोड़ दी. Thank you. So you, both of you actually wonderfully spoke about, the kind of the dreams and the aspirations that entrepreneurs should have. What's the opportunity in front of them? What can they really unlock? I think it's massive in terms of what's still as opportunities out there. But let's also, from dream, discuss about the doubt. Now, if an ecosystem has to look at it, and Shriya, Manu, what would the ecosystem be apprehensive about if one were to look at that?
Yeah, Gaurav, and as I think about, the scalability of what you've built or what you're trying to build, I think the things that I come across, even when I talk to people about this, I think one is, understanding of technology in the average person is still limited, right? So I think distinction between things like platform and network, what does it mean to backward integrate? What is protocol? These are things that even very educated people don't understand. So just understanding of what it takes to kind of build something at the scale that you've imagined this to be is hard. I think second is there's always concerns on data, right? However much you might explain that we've safeguarded data, now with so much fraud and, scare of AI and, what we want to happen, I think more than adopting data digital, it feels like a lot of people are now moving away from it, right? So how do you overcome the fear of sharing data? And I think third is the non-profit ecosystem is not, while we might, say that we are the most collaborative that exists, actually we are fairly non-collaborative, right? And I think to get people together, we're not collaborative, let's be honest, right? We all want to build out our own program, our own image, our own thinking. And for this to fundamentally succeed, we need collaboration. We need Samaj, Sarkar, Bazaar to come together. We need different sets of players to come together and saying, hey, we're going to enable this to succeed. So how do you get people, very different spaces, to collaborate towards one single thought process is challenging. And I think it's worth building those pilots to see how that happens.
I love studying the history of technology for good and studying these new ideas as they come and as they get deployed to the ground. And I think the fundamental mistake, at least I have made, and I fear we may repeat, is that to assume, if you fix information asymmetry, you will fix power asymmetry, right? I think it's a mistake to assume that the biggest problem is we don't know where the jobs are. There are also other problems. That is definitely the first thing. That is the first stepping stone. But without being in collaboration with local nonprofits, with ITIs, with the ministry, with local champions, with all the middlemen that tech entrepreneurs like me like to get rid of, but they too have a role to play here. It is really, really important that we keep an eye on the power asymmetry of it all. Like, are these jobs going to communities irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their caste, irrespective of all of these things that matter? I think that's really important. And look, technology absolutely has a role to tackle those things. But I think oftentimes, at least as a tech person, I just assume if you fix information asymmetry, you fix all power asymmetries, right? But information flows through the channels of power, which is why I think what the Ministry of Labor is doing is so important, working in conjunction with so many local organizations because they know their communities best. I think Dharwad succeeded because you worked with so many local organizations in Dharwad, right? If you had just come in being like, we will fix all of this by ourselves, it wouldn't have worked. So I think as we scale this, keeping it as rooted to local communities and local realities as possible, and keeping an eye on who's getting these jobs and making sure that's as inclusive as possible, that's a great start. And there's skill gaps, we fix those skill gaps, right?
I just want to add one point which I think is important for all of us, what Manu and Shriya said. See, the beauty of the blue dot or the open network is that it is then, as Ma'am was saying, is the UPI layer, right? As entrepreneurs, sometimes we tend to borrow ourselves and say, I will create the whole thing. It's not made here. I will reinvent. I think that thinking we have to change to say, listen, there's something that's available. How do I build on that? Where do I innovate, right? UPI wouldn't have been UPI if a Google Pay, Paytm, PhonePe had all created their own stacks, right? They built on the UPI layer as a protocol and then innovated crazily on various products, right? So the opportunity for us in Honest and Blue Dot is take that, and if we all put our might behind it to say, this is the protocol that we will all agree to, and then we can innovate like crazy on different value propositions for youth, and not just youth, for any opportunity mapping. There's enough number of opportunities, right? I've met a few folks the last couple of months where they say, oh, but I'm thinking something like this, why should I? The moment we think like that, we will end up with fragmented systems, and the sum of parts will never be the whole, right? So we need to figure out how do we collaborate, how do we come together. So Pankaj, maybe one of the things we should also think about is, while you're deploying money, one of the things that we should carve out within that itself is, I'm going to fund you only for collaboration, right? Because we have to put money there and get people to come together. It's easy to say so in forums, but getting people to work together consistently is damn hard. And we need to find nudges and incentives to make that happen.
Absolutely. Very well said. In fact, that's the key thing to solve for. Inclusion, collaboration, simplification, and participation along with incentives for everyone to leverage the digital rails so that everyone doesn't build everything from scratch. I think we'll take a segue in terms of moving to a rapid fire. But prior to that, you have a QR code in front of you. If anyone in the audience would like to scan the QR code and put down some ideas that are coming to your mind. What we'll do is, at the end of the session, we'll put all the ideas together and we'll share it with all the panelists here as well as with the audience. So if we can all scan the QR and put down an idea that may be coming to your mind, an initiative that you would like to take, that will be great. So coming to a little bit of a rapid fire. So one phrase kind of responses, please. Ma'am, first to you and also to you, Pankaj. If we were to think cars for a moment, and if stack is the engine, what is the body, what is the fuel? Ma'am?
I think the body is sitting here. So government gives you the UPI or the rails, and the body is as I said, the tripartite, the industry, the job creators, the job seeker, the entire ecosystem of employment is the body. And your next question was?
The fuel, what's the fuel?
I think the fuel will be the system, how simple, how interoperable, and how good is this system that we are making. So you were talking about the risks apart from collaboration. I think another risk is that we need to really do this well, keep it simple, keep the entry very simple, and that is what we would need to really work on in future. Yeah.
So for me, the body is protocol that we are building, and for me, the fuel is funding and entrepreneurship tied together. It will happen, and I also want to say that we can't be a country with one job board. It is enough. Yeah. It has done so much of disservice to Bharat to have one job board. Though the founder is my great friend, but I'm saying we cannot continue to have one job board country. So I hope we'll have 10 job boards probably soon.
So Madan and Manu, when you hear about the term the blue dots and the blue dot economy, what's the one phrase that comes to your mind?
Maybe I just said it, mere paas blue dot hai, right? How do we make it the Ma of employment?
Ma of
I cannot compete with this. But I think access, right? Like access is power, and the more we can make it truly inclusive, like I think that would be what would make it work.
So great. ma'am, to you and to Shriya, of course you spoke about Ghaziabad, but if you were to really pick a few districts in India, and of course you mentioned Ghaziabad, what would they be where you would want these local jobs and these blue dots becoming the really becoming a reality the soonest?
2 words, any district.
Wow.
Because this has potential for scale.
Right.
So it is moving from Dharwad to now Ghaziabad. It can go to a Guwahati, it can go to a Surat, it can go to a Jammu. So I think any district. And when you were speaking about the variability, yes, there is variability across the country, and we have to be cognizant of that. So I also feel once you do a proof of concept, there's also competition. Then everybody wants to jump on the same train. So I think it's important that we demonstrate the value of this proposition very well, so that any district can run with it with the true spirit of competition.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to take a slightly different viewpoint. I think we've been talking about unlocking local jobs, but I think as we add more district, it actually also makes the case for moving, right, on migration. And if you find an opportunity elsewhere, why not, right? We don't have to be tied to a local opportunity. So creating those migration pathways, locally, but then also internationally, I do see unlocking India's local economy. I would say unlocking India's economy. Maybe we should drop the word local here.
I fully agree with you. When we say local, it is not district. It is district connected to another district, district connected to a state, district connected to the national capital if needed. But it is just a proof of concept. Exactly. India is one. And world is one.
Exactly. World is one. Excellent. Amazing. And maybe a last one, actually, to all of you. And anyone can go first. Please feel free. Okay. If you were to think about one thing that should definitely happen and one thing that should definitely not happen in this context, what should that be?
Yeah, go.
Thanks. I think one thing that shouldn't happen, which we're seeing a lot, is what Madan said, too many different platforms coming up, right? And I think it's creating confusion. I think, you don't know what to happen. So that's one thing that should not happen. One thing should happen is the opposite. Or everybody should be on Beacon Protocol and integrate back into Blue Dots.
So I think the poet said, "Na hum hai to kya hum hai, tum ho to kya tum ho." So I think we'll have to come together. There is no doubt about it, right? So everyone, the whole ecosystem has to come together, and it is not only Sarkar's responsibility. That's number one. Number two, what should happen is probably that entrepreneurs take charge, and they find the way. So Shama Shobti us bhujang ko jiske paas garal ho, dam hoga tabhi kaam hoga, right? So I think let's go in that direction. Otherwise, it won't happen.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would love to see, one thing that should happen is wage standardization, right? I think it's really important that we set very clear living wage standards for new jobs as they come in. The Fair Work Foundation has done a phenomenal job setting this up in urban settings. We know that it is at least 124 rupees an hour. So making sure that we are following those mandates is important. What I would love to see is worker governance units, places where workers can come together, channel their issues that they have with new jobs, create setups where they can work with the employers together. I think as we move towards more jobs, we have to crack all of that again, not as if we cracked it in the previous employment phases. But I think one thing that really should happen is more power to our communities to set the standards at which they want to work, meeting the realities of the market, of course, right? That's very important. And one thing that shouldn't happen is cost arbitrage, right? I think we have to be very, very careful about a race to the bottom, right? I think that worries me deeply. And I think thankfully the government has done a very good job at putting the standard on high quality work. More and more complex work should be coming to our communities so that they're seen as the best at what they do, right? That's very important.
Wonderful, okay. I think at a Uber level, one of the things I would like to see happen is what I call as dig deep. It's also the light in the sky, but it's also about digital district economies on entrepreneurship platforms. So how do we then use protocols like this to create more economic opportunities for young people, for entrepreneurship and jobs as well? So I think we have to think that first, and the unit is a district. The amalgamation of districts is what makes the national economy very vibrant. I think the one thing that we should avoid is, or we should do more of, is how do we really shine the spotlight on entrepreneurial opportunities as well, and not just jobs? Well, jobs becomes a catch-all phrase. we have to shift the mindsets from being just job seekers to job creators. And how do we use all of our tech, intent and stuff like that to create more economic opportunities for young people, which could mean a combination of jobs, gigs, and entrepreneurship. So let's not just only say jobs, 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 but let's focus on economic opportunities.
I'd just like to take a cue from that. I know it was not my turn, but self-employment is something that we've also been thinking of, whether especially through the E2E. And therefore, from all of you who are self-made entrepreneurs and the people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs, if we can get certain ideas on how these platforms and this work that we are doing can also spur self-employment in government, we would welcome that quite a bit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can we do a few audience questions, please? Here we can. All right. So thank you to the panel. I'll just ask I'll take some of these questions that have already come from the audience. I think one of the questions is, ma'am, this will be to you. How soon can this stack be open for the ecosystem to participate?
First of all, I'm glad that there is excitement about it. Something that we were still, thinking as a nebulous kind of a thing is actually taking shape. I would not be in a position to give you a very firm timeline, but as I said, that we hope that the next district gives us the experience over the next 3 to 6 months, then our strategy rolls out. But certainly within the course of next 1 year, we would like to see a more concrete shape to it. But as I said, the entire tech would continue to evolve and improve with time. But that's the timeline we are working towards, and we are ourselves quite excited about it. And we hope that with partnership from everyone present here, we'll be able to meet the ambitious timelines.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll ask the next question what to you, Pankaj and Madan. And this has come from the perspective of asking that how do we ensure that this opens up many more opportunities for the women and the youth in the country? What shall be done so that it does open up many, many more opportunities?
So I think the moment these jobs will come, they will be far more democratized than in a previous avatar, right? If you look at today, everything is asked, even a CV, gender, etc. Most of the applicant tracking systems are a problem because they are first tracking your gender, your etc. etc. Most of the new blue dots that will come will be more democratized in nature. That's one part that I look at it. Second, everything is not well. We must accept it. So my first preference is that job, whether in a permanent or a gig, should come. I don't care whether it's a permanent job or not. If the rupee per hour is correct, I'm okay with that. So that's the second thing which is happening. And thirdly, then the gender and etc. problems will come. But वो उनके देखे से जो आ जाती है मुंह पे रौनक, वो समझते हैं कि बीमार का हाल अच्छा है. अभी हाल अच्छा नहीं है. ये reality है, right? So let's accept and then work towards it. So that's the thing.
I think, taking the women part of the conversation, right? I was mentioning about the YouGraph survey. We were just talking about the youth growth, resilience, aspirations, and future readiness survey that we're doing. One of the things that's coming out very clearly from women is that I need some form of financial independence, right? I need to earn something. It may not be a full-time job, but I need to stay at home or go closer. And I need to start earning something which will, it's just not about money, it's about the dignity and that independence, right? And I think platforms and protocols like this will open up a plethora of opportunities for women to participate in the labor force itself in multiple forms. And perhaps as we think about the stack and stuff like that, maybe there should be Pankaj, coming back to your fund idea again, maybe we should even look at solutions that are helping women access markets better. And see what we can do on the blue dot, maybe we can call it the red dot in the bindi or whatever, and see how we can get more women to participate in this. And I think the possibilities are immense.
No, great. Ma'am, actually, I'll take this as probably the last question. As a government voice for this, that somebody in the audience asked that, there are many folks who work with the youth. and of course the youth themselves, if one were to really talk to them about the opportunities next door, what's the kind of a vision and what's the kind of a perspective that one should share with the youth and the organizations working with youth?
I think since I have youth at home, I'm just thinking from their perspective also. I think what we need to basically tell the youth is that, go where you want to go. Don't limit yourself to what you feel you can do. You can push the envelope. There are a whole lot of opportunities there. There is no cause for despondency that jobs are not there. There are all kinds of jobs. And what was being discussed right now, if there are no jobs, there are gig opportunities. There are various other opportunities that are opening up. There are self-entrepreneurial opportunities. So I think it's important to first put yourself out there instead of just thinking, or instead of just going on writing exams after exams and waiting for some ideal job to come. The world of work is evolving. It's important that we step out and we become part of that evolving and dynamic journey that's happening.
Thank you so much. I think with that, we will wrap up the conversation. I would like to thank everyone on the panel. Thank you so much.